This is crazy. Marcel Ernie, thank you for joining me today, by the way. But recently, and this is probably not going to come to a big surprise to a lot of people in Canada, but as these tent cities have been propping up all over the place, it's only a matter of time before it turns violent. And it turns violent on innocent people that are just, trying to live their daily lives here in Canada. And now here I am talking to you. So surprising to hear from you last week to say you were attacked. And not only that, the RCMP couldn't give two shits about it. I mean, sorry to throw a swear out there right at the beginning of the video, but that's where we're at. Tell me the story.
Yeah, I mean, being attacked, jumped by four people was one of the scariest moments of my life. And I've crashed motorcycles not too just a month ago at 184 kilometers per hour, and that was super scary. I closed my eyes thinking I might die, but that only lasted for like a few seconds. Then you realize you're alive, right? This,
Right.
I was running for my life, being attacked, and I'll get into the whole story and explain it, but essentially jumped by four people, and one of them doesn't even know why they attacked me. He just was spurred on by the other people, gang mentality, and robbed. I was attacked and robbed, and that was super scary. I thought I might die because you never know if you're going to get knifed in that scenario when you're on the ground getting kicked and punched and knocked over where you can't even look one direction because they're just flying from so many different directions. I mean, I
Right.
we've all been in little high school fights and stuff, but to actually be on the ground, just there's nothing you can do besides trying to roll. And I just tried to roll and roll, and then after that, the police RCMP response was just another massive blow to the scenario. Like, you're blown away by what happened being attacked, and then I'm blown away by the lack of RCMP professional responsibility and just doing a proper investigation like you think they would do if it was somewhere else. If it was dealing with another citizen who is in the system and would attend court dates, they would go into this normally, I would believe. Like, I've actually charged somebody with assault when I was in high school. I was attacked outside of the high school, and the police go and take written statements from everybody. They'll come to your house, they'll take a written statement. They take it very seriously, right?
Hmm.
In this instance, not a single written statement. In fact, I'm like, I can point them out, and they wouldn't walk with me until the assailants already escaped. Like, they just went back to their tents, and I watched them after the fact. I'm like, here's this guy in the tent, one of the main guys who's 6'3", shirtless and practically bald. I know he's in this tent, and I'm like, let me show you the guy. I can point it to you. And they refuse to walk with me, saying it's too dangerous.
Well, before we get into all of that, let's get into, well, first, for people who don't know who you are, Marcel Ernie, you're a motorcycle racer. You're not a stranger to adrenaline and these kinds of scenarios where you said you just crashed your bike and these things happen, right? And we've known each other for some time. You were pretty active, an activist during the whole COVID thing. Since pretty chilled out, I'm understanding. You were back in your hometown of Kelowna, and walk me through this. What happens? What were you
Yeah.
doing?
So I mean, yeah, I was doing the news, like you, for like the previous years during the COVIDism. And, so I've dealt with police a lot, and I still have court with Conrad Herbs. I just had court with Conrad Tyrant Herbs on the 28th of August. So that's just a whole nother story about that with the judicial justice. But so that happened. And then the next day, on the 29th of August, my friend Percy says, hey, let's go for a one wheel. So he meets me here at my girlfriend's place, and then we one wheel to downtown Kelowna. One wheel, the electric one wheel balance boards, they go like 25 kilometers an hour. And so we one wheel all downtown and keep going all the way to the end of Kelowna's like waterfront. And then I'm like, hey, do you
Well,
want to see?
this is a trail that's actually like advertised for, right? So you showed me the website. I got this up here, and this is you know Okanagan railtrail.ca. This is Canada's tourism industry is aimed at this, and encouraging people to come out, but it also coincides with these tent cities that are propping up all over the country. It goes right through the middle of one. Am I correct?
That's correct. You can see the picture right there on the city beats. How ironic, because if you go there, you might get beat down.
Come on.
But so literally so if you look at that photo and you did a 180 and turned around, 50 meters is where Tent City is. Just 50 meters where those girls are heading right towards Tent City. Just another minute and they'll be there. And then they go
Man,
right through it for, the Tent City's like what? 100, it's like a football field length, right? Or a little shorter maybe. And the tents are all over the left and right. So yeah, I asked Percy, I'm like, you want to keep going from here, or should she just turn around? And, because this will take us through town up there, through to Tent City. And he's never seen Tent City. And I've been there plenty of times in the past. I've done several stories. I've actually interviewed maybe 5 or 6 homeless people, like did actual like interviews with them and got their full story. And there's some interesting stories about, one guy was a miner, and they would take him to the top of a cobalt mine or a copper mine, and he would get out of the helicopter and survey the scenario. And he had a house, a mortgage, and then he got injured, and then he couldn't go to work. He lost his job, and then he lost his house, and then he lost his car, and then he was in Tent City on painkillers, and then from there it goes from there. So I just learned the
right.
stories of people. And I was never attacked before, never had any issues, obviously. There's just a few crazy meth heads that will yell and scream at you. But you just try to keep moving on, right? So Percy and I, we one wheel continuing on the rail trail, and we go through Tent City all the way past Tent City. He's seen it now for the first time. A lot of people haven't seen it. And I haven't been there in a year. And so it was around 25-30% bigger than last summer. I've also
Mm.
been there in the winter time, and I actually was handing out the hot pocket hand warmers. I asked people what they needed. They really need gloves, and I would bring them some food. The people that I interviewed and I got to know. There was
Mhm.
another one named Nash, another one named Curtis who reads books, and he's read Orwell's
So you were a
1984.
friendly to the area for the people that had known you from the time before.
Absolutely. And I ran into Curtis when I was there as well with the police after I was assaulted. And I asked him if he read 1984, because, I just watched I listened to the whole 1984, and he talked about how he loved it and loved Animal Farm. And that's what I recommend everybody go read Animal Farm. Anyways,
Absolutely.
so yeah, there's people there that are friendly. He's sharpening like an axe the whole time, but you don't really have to worry about him attacking you. But there's crazy meth heads. It's not even meth. It's so many combinations of drugs, but they're on, they have these names for them. I don't remember, 3-letter names. And they're just sometimes hysterical. And so we one wheel one way and we turn around, and I said, you know what? I'm going to film this Tent City. I haven't filmed the news here in a year. I should film the size of it. And, maybe I'll use that footage for something, post it up on my Canadian journalist page, because I've been focusing on superbike racing. I've stopped posting news on Ernie Racing's channel, which is still shadow banned, by the way, from all the
Right.
COVID lockdowns on me, and or demoted, right, as the Twitter files proved by a certain percent.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Absolutely. That was
yeah, and
we don't have
Facebook,
the back end of Google yet, but we did
yeah,
see it in Twitter.
and Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, right? He
Oh, you
just
can claim.
admitted, yeah. And then, but there's not much in the news about that. Anyways, there's so many things we can talk about, but let's continue. So we turn around on the one wheels and continue now going back, and I'm just holding my phone, not like this, but like just down on the side, just to get on a full wide angle, 0.05 wide angle,
Hmm.
and cruising through. And I slowed down when there's some people on the side, and they got their like pipes, and just doing their balancing with their big curved pipes. And this girl on a bicycle who was right with them looks at me, sees the phone, and starts screaming hysterical. She's screaming at me for somebody to attack me. She's like, get this guy, essentially like, you're filming, you asshole, or sorry, swearing, bleeps at me. And she's on a bicycle, and she's getting this guy who's like shirtless, 6'3" or 6'2". She's sprawling him up to attack me. And so I'm on the one wheel, and Percy's in front of me, and I just keep moving. Like, I'm not going to stop and talk with some crazy person yelling at me, and I just continue
No.
moving. So she continues to follow me on her mountain bike. And guess what? There's another mountain biker. There's this big guy who's got some First Nation blood in him. You can easily tell by the color of his skin and hair. And he weighs like 220 pounds, just big fat, like either 5'11" or almost 6 foot tall. And he's on another bicycle, and they're just following me. And I'm looking back at them. I mean, I could only go, they could go just as fast as me on a bicycle as I can on the one wheel, right? And
Mhm.
she's just keeps talking to me. And the other guy is on foot behind him, following, trying to jog. And she rams into me with her bicycle. Like, I'm on the one wheel, it's a balancing board. Wait, here's my hand. And she just goes and smacks her front tire, just boom, and the one wheel goes down and then self balances because her tire's like on top of my one wheel. And I stay up, and I'm like, whoa, shit. And then the guy comes in within, 5, 6, 7 seconds later and rams me with his bicycle, and he weighs a ton. And now I'm just completely, my one wheel just, and I'm just crashing, right? Off my one wheel. I get up. The big tall guy, shirtless with a buzzed head, is at me, and he just throws one, two. I mean, he's above me, right? I'm looking up at him, and the punches are just coming, and I don't know how I dodged them, but he threw three punches, and somehow I was able to dodge every punch. Um, I mean, I got like green belt from grade 9, but no real experience lately.
Right.
And
Right.
but of course, this guy's probably high, and so his punches aren't very accurate. And so then I throw like a counter punch, and he's got so much reach. I don't even think I hit him because it just was too far for me to make the reach at the position I was in. And then I kind of duck around, and now I'm running from him. I'm literally running, and he's chasing me around the dirt. And I run, and I pick up my one wheel, which is just on the path. This thing weighs 45 pounds, right? It's
Right.
heavy, it's awkward. I guess I wish I had on. And and he's literally just at me as I pick up the one wheel, and I'm just like, get away from me. I'm using the one wheel as like a kind of like a divider between us, trying to push him away with the one wheel, just block his trying to punch me with the one wheel. And then I start to run away from him. I start to run down the KVR, now heading west towards the lake, towards the center of the tent city, because I was at the essentially the east first third of it when this happened. And he's chasing me, and I'm carrying this 45-pound board, and like this guy's running at a decent clip, and I just can't outrun him. And I'm like, I have like a gap of like 6, 7 meters, and I'm like, I just got to put the board down and get on it, because then I could just go 25 kilometers and get away. And I put the board down and I jump on it, and he's just sprinted at that point. He was just jogging, and then he's full on sprint, and just I'm getting on the one wheel, just boom, right? And just knocks me completely down.
Just so
And
people know what you're talking, I believe this is the kind of board you're talking about. Yeah, they're
yes, exactly.
electric boards that you can ride around on. They almost like hover.
Yeah.
And then he's knocked you off of it
Yeah. So first I
at
got
this
knocked
point.
off, and then he did a little fist fight with me, and I dodged pretty much all of his punches. Then I was running with the one wheel, put it down, try to get on it. Then he tackles or just knocks me off again with like, just running into me. And I'm then running away from him, yelling at him, just stop it, stop it. Like, what else are you going to say? Leave me alone, stop it. Like, he's
Yeah.
completely deranged. He's fucking high. And I somehow, in that whole thing, I pick up the one wheel again. And I mean, he's just throwing punches, just doing anything to attack me as these two bicycle people, the girl and the guy, the native guy and the girl who is like short white hair, big, like 150, 160 pounds, men's clothing, dressed like a butch girl dress, like totally butch lesbian dress style. And they're
Hmm.
continuing on to follow me on the bicycles during all this. And I'm running with the one wheel, and now I'm just complete adrenaline, insane, like war zone adrenaline, just running like a madman with this one wheel. And she's following on the bicycle, and she yells to people ahead who are just all congregated on this path because this is where they live, right? And the government puts them in and feeds them and everything.
Hmm.
And she yells, "Get him, get him, get him." She says it 3 or 4 times, and the people in front just start to congregate right in front of me, and this one guy just gets right in front of me, and I just running at him essentially as he just goes steps in front of me, and I just try to run through and deflect off of him, and he pile drived me at the same time, and I go down, and now I'm on the ground, and I get to my back, and they're all above me throwing punches, and I'm just like on my back. Get away from me! Just keep yelling at them as they try to throw punches, from above, right? Because I'm on the ground on my back at this point. And and then I try to get up, and I get hit from a punch from behind in my helmet, and I'm wearing it just like this normal bicycle helmet when I
Hmm.
one wheel, and I'm wearing armored shorts too, like the ones I wear for street bike racing. So they're pads, the D30 armor in the hips and the tailbone and stuff. And
Okay.
I got hit from behind, and then I go down, and then I got a soccer kick to the head, a full on. The guy that initially got in my way as I was running from them calling, get him. He did a full on soccer kick to my head, and then it just completely boom, and my neck just jarred. This guy's doing a running kick as everybody else is attacking me, and I go down and I'm laying on the ground, and then I'm just getting boom, 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 boom. You just feel the hits hitting the body, and I'm just trying to protect my head and thinking I'm gonna die because this is like, if I mean, these guys are insane on meth and other drugs, and they're just, one of them could just stab you. Let alone, this
Well,
is
they're
just like the
assaulting you. I mean, to the point where, I mean, you're lucky that you don't have serious injuries.
brain
You're very
injury.
lucky.
This is the only thing stopping me from a possible brain injury or a hemorrhage or at least the worst concussion ever, right? And I am just full on survival mode. This is fight or flight. I have never been in this in my life besides motorcycle crashing. But like I said, that only lasts a second or two.
Well, and
And
if you crash your motorbike, everyone's coming to your aid, not the other way around. This is a scenario that you don't know the end of,
yeah,
as it's unfolding. So what ends up happening then?
I just continue to roll. I'm just, all I can do is roll because I can't get up because the soccer kick, as soon as you get up, you're getting the soccer kicks under your chest or under your face, right? And there was at least three of them, at the three men beating. I don't know if the girl was watching or not. I just can't see now because I'm just getting kicks from everywhere and my head's down. And I roll and I start to roll, and I finally get back up. And the only person that was instigating now was the original tall guy, shirtless, who was the first one to try to punch me. And everybody else backs off, and my phone was stolen. They had gotten my phone, and that was it. Then they stopped.
And then you fled the place and found the
Hell,
police, or
definitely
did you have
no.
your board with you when you got to leave?
So when I got up, they're all surrounding, and the guy's swearing at me still, puffing up his chest, kind of the shirtless dude. Everybody else is kind of backed off. I'm like, you stole my phone. My phone's not on my hip. It's on a hip holster, like one of those big hip locker ones.
Yep.
And my sunglasses are gone. And I'm like, where's my phone? And it was recording the whole time, as obviously, but even though I clipped it on my hip when they were, coming at me on the bicycles, and it was on the hip. And where's my phone? Where's my one wheel? They were both gone. I saw the one wheel at a distance, just way over there, 10, 15 meters over there on the side of the dirt. Somebody had grabbed it and moved it over there. And
Hmm.
my phone's gone, and everybody just starts to leave. And now by the way, I was with my friend Percy, right? And I look up to the left, and there's Percy. He's carrying a little dog that looks like a minute in his arm on the one wheel the whole time. It looks like a miniature Doberman. And anyways, just watched me get beat. And then I look to my right, and there's a commissionaire. So a commissionaire, or the city of Kelowna, pays for security. And you remember on the night of January 29th, I had the commissionaires call the police on me for and monitoring me because I was an independent reporter and protester, right? And the commissionaires, who have no jurisdiction on the street, were monitoring the vehicles during the biggest rally Kelowna's ever had on January 29th, the beginning of the Freedom Convoy from the west to the east, right?
Hmm.
And so the commissionaires, they have jurisdiction on the sidewalk, and there's one that's hired there to be there all day long. He sits in his car all day long, every day, 24 hours a day on shifts. And he was standing there at this point, just 20 meters over there, and he watched the whole thing. Those guys carry pepper spray. They're wearing bodyproof vests, but they won't do shit, right? They're just
So,
there to
but
report.
was he able to be a witness to the scenario, to the thing that happened?
Well, I would sure hope so. That's a good question. Is what did he, the police should have taken a statement from him, of course, but I mean, the police won't tell me anything, right?
So my question now is, the scenario's over. You're able to escape, obviously without your possessions, and your friend, I'm guessing, didn't call the police.
No, he one wheels over to the commissioner, and the commissioner radios, KSOC, which is Kelowna Security Operations Center. The only reason I know that is because of my court dealings of herbs, right? And I have the transcript and the report from them, being biased towards protesters. So I know all about these codes of the KSOC. And so
Right.
KSOC is his headquarters, who called the police on me with herbs, by the way. But they are supposed to, then they call the police that, this guy is getting attacked and assaulted and robbed in Tent City. And so then Percy and I are with him, and I'm like, so you called the police? And he's like, I radioed my KSOC, and they'll be here. And then I get on my one wheel, and I'm gonna find these guys so I can ID them, and I want it because they're going in their tents now. And I get on the one wheel, and I rip down, and the guy who attacked me, the tall one who was threw most of the punches in the beginning and the end, I see there's his tent, him and this girl in this tent, his wife or whatever, and he's just, of course, threatening me to get away from him. And I don't have a camera to take a photo. I just I'm trying to memorize where he is, right?
Hmm.
And then I go back and talk to the commissioners, like, why aren't the police here? The police station is just up the road. It is a 1 minute drive away, the police station. 1 minute and 20 seconds tops, like from actual drive time. We're there 10 minutes, nothing. I continue to one wheel around as we're waiting, and I spot the other guy that kicked me in the head and the one that knocked me down when they were yelling, get him. He was actually wearing like a little reflective vest, like, construction kind of style, just over top of his thing or part of his sweater, reflective. So he was easy to like memorize. And I go up, he's at this little volunteer thing where people give free drugs or pre-paraphernalia or whatever. And I'm like, take a picture of this guy. Please take a picture of this guy. And they're like, why? And I'm like, because he just assaulted me. And they're like, well, I know who he is. His name's, and I don't remember. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And then I one wheel back, and the police still aren't there. It feels like 15 minutes. It could have been just 11 or 12, though, but I don't have a time, at that moment to
Hmm.
understand actual time. And then Percy's like, well, I'll just dial 911. Forget this guy's in KSOC. We can't trust them anyways. And then
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
dials,
Call the police. Yeah.
so he dials 911 now at 5:30 because I have a call log. So I'm trying to figure out the times of the assault. So at 5:30, he calls 911. I'm on the phone for 1 minute. Police show up. I hang up. And I roll right up to the first guy. 5 cop cars are rolling in at the same time. So instead of them coming with right away, they all gang up the cops, wait around until they have 5 cars or more, and then they come in all together. Because guess what? It sounds like they're afraid of Tent City themselves. Yet we are advertising that this is a rail trail and it's open to the public for commuting, right? And paid for by the city of Kelowna, and everything's paid for, right?
Hmm.
Um, so I say, I'm the one that was assaulted. They're still here. I can point them out. Just follow me on your car. And I one wheel, and boom, I point out the guy that knocked me down when I was running. Knocked me down before I got the full on beat on with the reflectors, like construction
Yeah.
reflections. He was easy. He didn't run away. And then I'm like, keep following me. And then they all stop in the middle where the commissioner was, and to arrest the one guy. And I'm like, okay, let's keep going. The other guy's right up here. And they said, so keep in mind, 4 cars roll in, 4 cops roll in. One of them's talking to me, this Officer Campbell, this female. She's got to be under 30. And then the other individual who arrested that guy, he's got to be like 30 as well. Like some young individuals these days. There's really no senior cops anymore that I meet. And I'm like, let's do it. And he's like, we need to wait for backup. We can't do it. It's not safe. I mean, there's 4 of you, 5, 6, 7. There was 7 there at that point, and it's not safe to go right now. And they all have a little huddle together, the 4 of them, and then the other 3 are standing behind. And I'm like, come on, I can point them out. They're right, the guy is right down here. I just saw him. And my phone, my GPS thing, like I have a speaker, one of those little speakers from Costco, the JBLs, right here. I'm like, my phone just went beep beep, like it connects and disconnects. It's just the phone is still like right there. It's in the vicinity. We can
Oh,
track
you
these
were
guys.
connecting to Bluetooth to your phone, and it was
I listen to music on it, so the phone just went connect, disconnect, like which is like either
right.
just
Right.
I'm like
So
it just went.
you were within like 10 meters of your phone.
Well, the thing would probably maybe 20 meters. Either it just disconnected or it just connected, but it just made the ring right then and there with the police. And I'm like, oh my god, this is a good way. I could just ride up and down and wait for it to reconnect, right?
Yeah.
And so they refused to do anything. And what's worse is I talked to the one Campbell. I gave her a 2-minute synopsis of what happened. And then we're waiting around for 10 minutes. Let's go. They call it EMS or the ambulance. They show up 20 minutes later. Let's go. Let's go. And they all huddle in a circle. And please, Marcel, please, we're having a private conversation here. I'm like, what is going on here? You know, I can only think back to herbs. They all know who I am, right? They all know who I am.
For
My
people who
videos went
don't know, you had a confrontation with an officer at one of the Freedom Convoy rallies.
the
A
biggest one
series,
in Kelowna.
yeah,
Hmm.
right? And he went above and beyond his line of duty. Let's just say, uh, wanted to arrest you and put you in a precarious situation where you couldn't get out of your camper to even leave the premise because he wanted to try to arrest you as soon as you came out, and you couldn't get back into your truck to drive away, and so you filed a police or a complaint against him, a formal complaint, and that's ongoing still.
It
So
is.
it's assumed that cops are buddies with each other. I don't know how much or what, or if it's even related. But at the end of the day, even without that scenario, you're a citizen and you were just assaulted by vagrants in a place that's supposed to be a tourist town. It's supposed to be the place where you're driving you're riding your bike, you're riding your scooters, you're riding all your things as a tourist attraction. And Tent City is now there with these. I mean, how else do you say it? Vagrants, homeless people, drug addicts, all of
Drug
this stuff,
addicts.
and now violent assailants at this point, and the police were just not. It just sounds like they just weren't having it. Like, tell me the vibe there.
It was so weird. I even said to Percy, what is going on here? They don't even want to find the guys. They're literally waited for 30 minutes for them to leave. Like they can go through the back of the fence in that park. The fence is open in all the back areas. And boom, they get away. The guy gets away. He was in the tent when the police first rolled up. I knew the tent to go get to. So it was like 35 or 40 minutes before I finally convinced them. The EMS already like, oh, my legs were bleeding. My ankle was swelling up. My left thumb is sprained. Um, and then bruises on the arms and everything else. So
And then
I'm like,
very
just,
lucky, nothing worse because of
yeah.
wearing the helmet and all that stuff.
Yeah. So I just said, EMS, just give me something for the blood on my knees. Like if they're bleeding, they're literally, scabbed up like, a decent size. And then I'm like, because I want these cops to do something. I'm not going to go with you or sit with you guys. Like, I got to be here and fight for my rights and the rights of everybody and accountability and transparency and make sure these guys are arrested and charged. And so do a quick EMS. And then I'm just waiting around. Come on, guys, let's go. What are you waiting for? What's the big secret? You know, and then finally, okay, we're ready to go. And we walk up and I'm like, here's the tent the guy was in. Oh, and then they're like, well, we can't actually look at any tent without permission. They're treated like they're private property. And I'm like, oh, wonderful. And so they like, hello into this tent, the one that I saw the guy, the one that I remembered that the guy was in, but I could still be wrong because man, they just looked all fucking just a pile of tents, like it's so hard to
Right.
memorize. But I'm like, I think this was the one because it all just becomes a big blur of tents. And they're like, hello, and there's a girl in there, which there was before as well. And they're like, hey, we're looking for a phone. Can we come in? And she's like, sure. She lets them in, right? Even though she could have said no. And then they come out. Is this your phone? And I'm like, no, it's not my phone. And that was it. And then took a walk up and down, and with Officer Campbell and Constable Juke. They're both constables. I asked for a sergeant. I want a sergeant. I want the watch commander down here. We need some actual police work to be done. And they're like, well, there's no watch commander available. Nope, we don't. There's nobody available. Nobody available. And that story keeps going. And what are you going to do? I'm like, I need to physically ID them. Who else can ID them besides me? We need to do a lineup. They need to catch them based on descriptions. So I'm talking to the cop. I'm like, so you're going to need some statements. We're going to need to ID these guys. We're going to have to come back and find them. And you're going to need me to do it. And I'm the one like, how are you going to investigate this? How can I help? And they were like, we're busy. I understand that you got attacked, but like, we're busy. We have other calls to go to. We have many things to do. And this is from the main guy who took the file number, file 2024 50404. He's telling me he's busy. I'm just like, I
And
remember
what did
when
they
I,
do for the file? Did they just took a statement from you of what took place, or?
no, the only time somebody asked me what was going on was the girl the first 2 minutes when they arrived, Constable Campbell. Like, no notes, just a verbal thing. Let's go get the guy. like the other assailants, I just told them these what, the quick detail of what happened. We're one wheel, and then I got attacked here, and then I ran, and then they attacked me here and stole my phone. And so they have really no information for an actual written statement whatsoever. And they arrested the one guy. They grabbed the one guy and put him in the back of the car, right there. And of course, I'm just absolutely still riled up, and just trying to gather myself. And it's hard to think straight in that moment about like the details. But so essentially, they weren't going to do anything. And I'm like, well, I need to pin my phone. We can track my phone. So I get on Percy's phone and I try to log into my Google because it's an Android, and then I go to log into Gmail or whatever, right, to do it. And it's like, oh, you know how when you log in now, there's a secondary security that sends you a number to your phone,
Yes,
and
the
then you put
two-factor
in like, and
authentication.
and then you put in 64, approve kind of thing, on your second computer or your phone. And I'm like, great, I can't even log into Gmail on my friend's phone because it's pinging to like my secondary phone or my phone that was stolen, right?
Right.
So we then leave at like 6:30 and one wheel all the way back to my girlfriend's place, and I grab the phone I'm talking to you on or the computer, and then I log in and I track it, and I can see it exactly at the fence line of Bailey Road, right behind Tent City, where because the tents are against the fence, KVR, tents, and then Bailey Road. And I'm like, it's right there. So I called the police station back. You're talking to the switchboard operator for 10 minutes. She gets you over to dispatch. You're talking to them for 10 minutes. They put you on hold for 15 minutes. And then, okay, we messaged Constable Juke. And then 15, 20 minutes later, I get a call from Constable Juke. And then on my secondary phone that only has Wi-Fi, right? I don't have a SIM card active with it. It was just
Mhm.
my old phone. And I'm like, I got a pin. I can see it. Like if we're there, we can pin it right to the tent, right? Or exactly where it is. Like, as you walk in, you're going to track it. So they're like, okay, I can be down there. So him and Campbell meet me down there just outside the tent city. And I'm like, okay, I need a hotspot because I tracked it. Here it is when I left the house, but we can track it exactly. I just need you to give me a hotspot. Well, I don't know if we're allowed to do that. That's a security breach potential. No, I can't give you a hotspot. No, I can't give you a hotspot. What about your personal phone? No, I don't have a personal phone. Not putting any effort in whatsoever to catch. Like literally, my phone could have been tracked right then and there, and we could have found the guy in the tent. Like, these things, they give you exact coordinates within like 4 meters, right? 5, 6 meters.
Yeah.
At least you'd have two tents you could ask and knock on. And yeah, I'm like, so I get assaulted, and your common sense says that I'm gonna like break into your phone through your hotspot. Yeah, as if I even knew how to do that, or who knows how to do that. But this is your concern. So I'm like, whatever. And we go and walk around, and of course, everybody's in their tent. You can't see anything, you can't do anything. And then as we leave, I'm like, he's telling me, I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? Do I have to come back here by myself and do the actual investigation and spot them and then call you guys? But will you give me your personal phone number so I can get you down here quick? No, of course not. No, I'm not giving you my phone number. Right? Who's your direct
Yeah.
supervisor? No, I'm not telling you who my supervisor is. No. There's no accountability. It's absolutely insane. They want your phone number,
None.
they want your details, but they won't even like give you their supervisor's name. Again, still, it's so
So my
crazy.
fear in this whole thing is police are getting. I'd imagine police are getting a little jaded because of the criminal code, the way things have been going when it comes to people, violent offenders that go to jail. They're out the same day. Why put in the effort? Like maybe it's not to do with you, but maybe it's to do with the fact that there's no purpose in putting in such effort to find justice for these people because the justice won't happen even if they go in. So a lot of these cops are just jaded. I mean, this is a possibility, right?
I believe you are right, and I've talked to several people about this and got opinions on this. And in the back channels, it's like, so these people, they won't show up to court dates. You arrest them, they're not in the system. They're not a real citizen. Like they have no accountability for themselves. So you arrest them and then you let them go with a court date to attend, and they don't show up. They're just in tent city. And then what? Do you think the police is going to go and, well, we got to go arrest this guy because he missed his court date?
Oh,
You
even
know,
if
and
they
they
do, they'll just promise to appear at a later date and then they're just out
eh,
again.
on and on and on. So definitely, it feels like there's orders all throughout the RCMP when you're dealing with essentially the vagabond, homeless, drug addicts that the Liberal NDP has then essentially grown by tenfold. Don't even bother. Just try to like brush the investigation away. We're busy instead with 3 hours of harassing a guy for parking next to the Freedom Convoy. That's more important, right? And going to 6 court dates and so on and so forth. No, assaults don't matter, but parking with the Canadian flags, we're going to spend $50,000 on that with Conrad Herbs, and that story is insane, dude. How many cops and how much time's been wasted? Um, of course, they say I'm wasting their time, but I'm the only one not being paid. Actually, it was in court. The justice said, "You're going down a dead end road, Mr. Ernie. Stop wasting your time and my time." And I say to him, it's like, "Your worship, the only person's time is being wasted is mine. I'm the only one not being paid here. I've been to 6 court dates. Trust me, my time is wasted." And that's a whole nother part of the story of that one.
Hmm.
The justice essentially worship, he wouldn't let me cross-examine Herbs. He literally did everything. Instead of me cross-examining Herbs, I'm cross-examining the worship because he answers for him every single time. But anyways, back to the story. So with the officer Juke and Campbell's like, "I'm busy, I gotta go," and she just runs off. And then Juke, the guy with the file number, I get him on film. I'm just like, this is ridiculous, and I film myself as I'm holding the phone towards me as he's talking, and I got like the last minute of the conversation, essentially capturing, saying, "You know what? I'm busy. We're short staffed. I don't have time to come out here and meet you. You're welcome to try to ID these guys. Get a long eye. That's what he said, long eye." And I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, it's super dangerous for me to try to ID these guys if they remember who I am too, right?
Well, yeah, because they see you as someone who's going to tell on them to the authorities. Yeah, I get that. I get that, and I get that that's a danger to you, but it's also a danger to other people. I mean, having these people still out on the street when they have the propensity to attack somebody just because they're filming. I mean, this is a tourist destination. You're on a tourism road, and you're gonna expect people to be filming just randomly everything, whether whether it's the nice sights or it's the crummy tent city on their vacation, just to show everybody, look at what's actually happening here. I spent all this money to come out this way, and this is the view we get. And then on top of that, you have to worry about being assaulted now in the city of Kelowna or in the city of Vancouver or in the city of where you name it, where this is all being allowed to occur and nothing's being done about it.
Yeah, and to continue, I went back to Tent City. I'm quite a stickler for truth and transparency and accountability, as you've learned in the past. And so I went back there the next morning and I met with a homeless person that I knew, Curtis, the guy that I asked him if he read 1984. So he was there when I was with the police, and I'm like, "Oh, hey, Curtis, I haven't seen him in a year, right? Because I haven't been doing the news. I've been focusing on my superbike career." And then I went back, and then I talked to Curtis and I say, "Hey, can you help me?" And he vouches for me. He vouched to me for his neighbor. He asked his neighbor, Blake, "Hey, did you see what happened? Do you?" And I'm like, "Can you help? Can you?" He could walk around and ask people for my phone. He lives there for years, right? And everybody
Mhm.
knows Curtis. Everybody likes him. He's a likable guy. Um, and so he says, "Yes, he'll help me. He'll try to find the phone for me and maybe the guy with it, right?" And so I'm like telling the police, like, I need to go back tomorrow at 10 a.m. to meet Curtis, and I'm a little concerned about my safety. And they're, we're like, "Well, we can't just go and show up, Marcel, and we can't just walk around with you." And I'm like, "Yeah, oh yeah, I understand, but if I ID these guys, I need you to show up right away, and et cetera, et cetera." So I talked to Curtis, and the next morning, and like I showed you earlier, I wore like a big hoodie. I put on some old sunglasses. You put on, like my girlfriend's kid's jacket, and put like the phone like just sticking out of the pocket right here, and just completely, try to make myself blend in. and talked to him, and his neighbor Blake's. Yeah, there I am. And his
You look totally incognito,
yeah, so
Marcel. Good job.
a lot different than like this, right? That's what they've
Right,
seen. Right. And yeah, I was scared but eventually I kind of got more
I
comfortable, right?
believe it. I believe it. If you've been assaulted like that, it's gonna leave a lasting memory on you, and it's
Yeah.
it's not easy to go run your own investigations in this case.
Yeah.
So where is this going from here? Are you gonna keep pursuing this with the police and try to ID these guys and actually file charges?
I that's what I told him the whole time. It's like, I want charges filed. And he's like, well, that's not up to us. That's up to a prosecutor. And I'm like, well, you got to do the investigation first then. And you got to take statements from everybody. And so when I came home after the whole thing, after seeing them that night and trying to I'll go with the police station. I said to Constable Juke, I'll go to the police station with you right now. I know you need a written statement. I know you need something concrete besides 1 minute talk with your Campbell, who is going to relay what I said to you. That makes no sense whatsoever. I know you arrested a guy. Do you still have him in custody? Oh, I can't tell you that. There's a security camera above Tent City, above the KVR. And I forgot to mention it during the time. They're like, oh, we can get the camera and review it and track you on the one wheel and follow you. One of those big 360 cameras, I'm assuming, or otherwise multiple cameras from a big Osprey Nest style camera system, right?
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, perfect. Then you can have it all on thing, and you can ID these people. You can print out a photo. You could ask me to come into a lineup. Like, I'm like, what are you gonna do? And and he's like, well, I'm really busy. And I'm like, well, when are you at work again? He's like, well, I'm off for a week now, starting after tonight. And I'm like, oh, so you just took the file, but you're tonight after 4 a.m. you're done. And I'm like, well, when you back on work? And he's like, well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how long I'm going to be sick for. He literally said that. I'm like, okay. So when are you scheduled to be back on? He's like, well, I know my schedule, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be back then. So his schedule was back on Tuesday. So I get home and I call the RCMP again, their non-emergency line, and I'm on hold for 30 minutes before somebody picks up the phone. Maybe 20. Maybe I'm jumping. At least 20 minutes, nobody even picked up the phone. Yeah, short staffed, you could say, right? But they're
Yeah.
still bugging me about herbs, right? And and then I get over, I'm like, I want the watch commander. Who's the watch commander? A Staff Sergeant Collins. And okay, I need to get on the phone with him. And they're like, they reach out to him and he's like, oh, are you sure? And I'm like, I want to talk to him. And then finally he gets on the phone and I give him about 40 minutes. I explain everything. He just listens, right? Which is what, they do, and kind of let me rant essentially for 40 minutes. And I'm like, I want some accountability. I want you to take over this investigation
Yeah.
because this
It's not
officer clearly,
therapy. It's not therapy.
this,
You're looking to file charges against the
yeah.
individual that assaulted you.
So they didn't take any descriptions of the people. Like, they didn't ask me what their descriptions are. They didn't ask me. I suggested to do a statement that night, and Duke's like, he's like, no, I'm too busy. Email me a statement. Like, insane. And so I'm telling him this, and he's like, well, that's really odd. You definitely need to make a statement. That's an important part of the investigation. I'm like, yeah. And he didn't ask me about my descriptions. They arrested a guy. They didn't even ask me what he did. I just pointed at him and they grabbed him, and that was it. Like, he's in the car. They didn't ask me, so what exactly did he do? How did he hit you? What was his involvement? No questions, nothing. So I just knew this whole thing is being botched because of the vagrants, because of the homeless situation, or who knows how deep it goes with assault investigations when there's no money at stake, right? For the people who are the assaulters. And
Mhm.
so I'm like, okay, let's make an appointment. I'll come in and he's like, well, I won't be there tomorrow morning for the Staff Sergeant Collins, but you can do it with somebody there, or just how about you just wait to next week when Juke's back on? And I'm like, so you want me to wait a week before I give a statement? So I'm just gonna lose the freshness of it, And like, I'm like, oh, so ridiculous. And I posted that entire conversation with Staff Sergeant Collins on my YouTube. I recorded it, and it's on there. So everyone's welcome to go on the Ernie Racing YouTube channel, and you can
Mhm.
watch my own statement to I called my brother, and you really can feel my emotion as I'm explaining what I was assaulted and robbed. And then I call the staff sergeant, and so those 3 videos are online, where I explain the story to the cop, and you'll hear his answer. He's like, Well, so I'm like, so when I spot the guy, I call the police, and he's like, well, I don't know if we're actually going to be able to respond or not. Like, just read the comments and you'll see the general feeling towards the RCMP in Canada. And I'm sure you've seen the same comments on yours on similar style discussions. 99% of people are disgusted.
Yeah, yeah, people are pretty fed up with it. That's the consensus that I'm getting.
Hmm.
Get out there and do something. But then when I do talk to RCMP, people in the policing or in RCMP, I get the idea that people are jaded. People are getting fed up with the system because it goes nowhere, and they're out there babysitting, it feels like, where they can't make real arrests. Those people aren't going into, they're being put into prosecution. It's just a revolving door at the police station, and I can see from their perspective being jaded. But it really sucks, because then at the end of the day we have situations like what you just went through, where police aren't willing to do anything because they don't want to put in extra work to find these people. They'll just get kicked right out then the very next day. And obviously there's frustration, and I'm not saying that that's what they were doing specifically in this case, but my gut kind of leads me there, to feel that that's why they're not really putting that much time into it, and they have all these
Mm.
other things they're being called for. It's just what a scenario. And this is where it's at for the average Canadian to ponder. What do I do? We've seen in recent times, well, this has been escalating further and further. The average Canadian citizen has less and less rights to defend themselves, and if you did defend yourself, you could find yourself in trouble. Say you brought pepper spray and you pepper spray the guy, he files a complaint against you. Who knows? Maybe that one will go through, and then there's an incentive to go after somebody who's got a job and got a house and got all these other things, right? So it really puts the average person in a really precarious situation, because you want to be able to enjoy your country. You want to be able to enjoy the places where you want to travel and enjoy whatever activities you do, whether it's biking, one wheeling, or motorcycling, whatever it is, just hiking and walking. And we have to worry about these scenarios that are coming, largely to do with policing and economics in this country across the board. It's happening everywhere,
Yeah.
and it's really escalating.
Well, you hit the nail on the head, and I was thinking the same thing before you said it about the next subject of this is like we're not allowed to defend ourselves. It's not like, in Nevada, you could walk around open carry. I see it at the racetrack all the time. It's so funny about the racetrack, and there's a guy open carrying, and it just becomes like natural. But your eyes always go to the gun on the hip. I literally did open carry. I was in Vegas. My sponsor in 2014, he has got tons of, everybody's got, guns. And I'm like, oh, hey, can I borrow this 9mm? I want to try open carry. So I put it on my hip with his holster on the belt, and I went to the PharmaSave walking around. And it's so funny because everybody's eye just goes boom down to your open carry, right? It's so hard not to look at a gun on your hip, right? So you can see their eyes drop as I buy some stuff at the shopping, the Shoppers Drug Mart. Then I went to
Mhm.
the casino. I walk into the casino, through the casino, and go where I get breakfast all the time. And I sit down and I have breakfast. So yeah, I'm open carrying, but there's only so many deranged psychos, and then there's a lot of general public that are accountable. And so if somebody enters this cafe and starts to try to attack somebody and kill somebody, well, then I have, as an open carry citizen, I would be able to like subdue the scenario and save everybody, like as the terms of those mass shootings or school shooting or etc. Right?
Mhm.
And but in Canada, no guns allowed, no pepper spray. You're not allowed anything to defend yourself. Like you can't walk around with a bat. You have to have a bat, a glove, and a ball in your truck. You know what I mean?
Like,
Um,
you can't use the bat because that might be
yeah,
unreasonable, has been explained to me.
yeah. But I
But
think
it's unreal.
what I'm getting at is I believe the open carry is better because the criminals know that everybody is like the sheriffs are everywhere essentially. And so if I do something, I actually might get accountability and injured and shot as a criminal because
Mhm.
there's everybody has a gun. And yeah, it's not everybody is fine with it. we have cars, we have knives, we have many ways to injure people if you're psycho. It's not about the gun idea. So, but again, yeah, like what I'm one wheeling through, like what am I going to carry? A pepper spray, and then if I went down, I've had this conversation. If we went down to Tent City and assaulted somebody, the police would be all over us. And the fact they charged somebody for running a vehicle over a homeless person in Tent City like 2 years ago, he got charged, and went to, the whole 9 yards. Right? The police will go after
It
citizens.
makes me curious of what the history was for that individual, and
Yeah, he was robbed.
what they were.
Apparently, this guy was robbed. He has his bike stolen. He was pissed off, and then he went and he drove over somebody's tent. Um, right?
Yeah, what I mean though is it probably wasn't so cut and dry. Like, oh, he just got robbed, and then that. It might have been an
Mm,
escalation of series of events that there's no
exactly.
police reports for because there's no incentive to make those reports. But
Yeah.
it's crazy. I like the way you're going with that. The whole idea of an armed society is a polite society. I happen to agree with that. So I mean, I'm only going to agree with your sentiment on that one. But Marcel, I'm so thankful that you're okay. After all that you just went through, you're still good. You're beat up and you're scraped up, but you're not seriously injured. You've got all your faculties and you've got all your limbs. So, I
Yeah.
mean, that's definitely, and this is what you got to worry about. The average person doesn't know if they'll get themselves in that situation, and it'll be a lot worse off. Perhaps they wouldn't be wearing a helmet when being
Oof.
kicked. You never know. A million different things could go in a completely different direction, and then we would be reading about your story, not talking
Mhm.
about it today, right? So,
Yeah. I went down yesterday again. So I went there like 3 times, and I ID'd the guy on the bicycle that rammed me with his bicycle, the First Nation guy. No, I've never seen the girl again, but so the criminal number two, I freaking ID'd him. I walked right up to him and filmed him in my disguise, and I even talked to him, and I tried to bring up the fact that it's like, hey, that was really funny about the other day, when that guy was running with that electric skateboard, try to kind of instigate him to talk about it. And then
yeah.
he says, I don't know what you're talking about, sir. And it was really weird because he said, sir. So I assume he
Ah,
thought I was a cop.
yeah, I bet. That sounds like that's where it went.
So I got that
Oh
video
man.
footage. So anyways, I have a photo from the video, clear photo of this guy. And I went to the police station. So this Tuesday is up. Buddy's back on work, a Constable Juke, and he calls me up. And I go to the police station today, and I did a full-on statement,
Mhm.
audio recorded. They got 3 cameras on me in this room, and they wouldn't let me record my own statement. They, in fact, argued it out with me. I had to get a supervisor in there. They're like, "You can't have a phone in here. You can't." And I'm like, "What do you mean I can't have a phone in here? I got my notes on my phone, my phone call times, etc." And so they argued you can't have a phone in here when I'm in, like, it's just me and them in this private room that they're recording me on 3 cameras, right? And
Mhm.
I'm not allowed to have a phone in there. That's the beginning. And I'm like, I'm like, I'm like, I need it for my notes. And they're like, are you recording this? And I'm like, yes, I'm recording the audio as well. And then it turns into, well, you're not allowed to film in a police station. And I'm like, yes, I am. In fact, I've been in the room just over there with Sergeant Failure, who did my complaint 5 times. I met there 4 times, and I recorded every conversation with him, and he knew it. So don't
Mhm.
tell me I can't record in here. And then so this is how they start. You can't have a phone in here. You can't record in the police station. Why don't they just say you can't record your statement, right? Why do they jump around the bush? They know it's me. They know that I have the possibility of making it all accountable online. And so we all know what they're afraid of, right? And
Mhm.
it pretty much this whole be blowing up in their face because they're not doing their job. That's what they're afraid of.
Well,
And
let's see what happens because I mean, this could blow up in their face when people stop going to Kelowna to this trail, or at least don't go to that area of the trail because it's dangerous and going around these vagrants they're increasingly being emboldened to do more and more drastic, more and more violent things because again, there's no repercussions for this for them. Marcel, where can people find you online if they wanted to keep
just
following the story and see it for more?
Ernie Racing. um, Ernie Racing YouTube. I'm a motorcycle racer and, of course, freedom fighter, and just youtube.com/Ernie Racing. Just search Marcel Ernie. And to end it, yeah, so the police have the photo of the guy that smashed me on the bicycle, and they have the descriptions of the four assailants. And they're gonna. Did you see the security footage yet? He's like, no, I haven't watched. We haven't gotten it yet from security, which makes no sense. And I'm going to do an FOI request, a Freedom of Information Act request, right? For that footage myself, because you got to learn how to do all this stuff, right? It just keeps going. And hopefully we'll have some people arrested because they will continue to do this. It's not everybody, it's just these select people. And they probably terrorize all of the things. In fact, they do
Mhm.
terrorize every there. Because when I was there yesterday, I met a guy, 66 years old, retired. He travels across Canada with a pension and RSPs to pay his way, but he doesn't want to waste all his money on rent because rent and food and entertainment doesn't fit. You know, it's either rent and no entertainment and a little bit of food, or it's food and entertainment. 66 years old. He had the cleanest tent set up and everything. Anyways, he told me 4 days ago he was robbed of his phone too by the people that he sees all the time. He gives them cigarettes. He's the only guy that was sober there. His name was Doug. I did a little interview with him, but then the phone turned off. It's so sad because it's such good interview. You know, a guy that works on the rigs, you know, and now retired and sober. And he's living in Tent City 2 months. And he got his phone stolen from the same guys that he gave cigarettes to, but all of a sudden he says they just snap when they're on their meth.
I guess that's what it is. But yeah, it's got to come to an end. Something's got to happen, and I'm glad we're able to share this message. Thanks a lot,
Yeah, I
Marcel,
just
Ernie.
hope, thank you so much. And I hope this story gets out there and the RCMP will pay attention and do the best of their ability. Fingers crossed.